All right. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Chris Heller. I'm the Chief Growth Officer with, um, so we have a lot of different names. Some of you may know us by Ojo, some by Mavoto, some by Lever. We are owned by Lower Mortgage out of Columbus, Ohio. Super excited to be here with everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes so everybody can join. Those of you that were on time or early, good job. Um, I see in the comments people are posting where they're from. Love to see where everyone's from. Black Hills, South Dakota. All right. So we'll give it another minute or two. This is going to be a great session. And we're going to make this interactive. So if you have questions, chime in at any time. You can put them in the comments. Uh, we want to make sure everyone gets lots of value out of this. South Africa. Look at that. I thought I was far away. I'm in Bologna, Italy tonight. It's nighttime here. Um, so excited to be joining everyone. All right. From Alaska to South Africa to Italy to Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Missouri, all over the world. All right. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll jump in. I'm going to start sharing my screen. So those of you can have something better to look at than me. All right, so this session is called Secret Weapons of a Solo Agent. Some of you have been on teams, some of you have probably considered being on teams. But this is for solo agents. So let me do this. All right, so as I said, my name's Chris Heller. I've been in the business for a long time. I've got my license in 1983, believe it or not, and I've sold over 4,000 homes. I have a real estate team in San Diego, and I love real estate teams, but I also love solo agents. I was formerly the CEO of Keller Williams and had 160,000 agents. So at heart, I'm an agent and a big supporter of agents, whether they're individual agents or on a team. So let's talk about the solo agent, because that's really what this is all about. And I call this section the reality check, because it's really looking at yourself and saying, okay, who am I? Who am I as an agent? Who am I in the eyes of my clients? Who am I in the eyes of my prospects? Am I a full-time agent? Am I a part-time agent? Am I a professional agent? Am I a hobby agent? What are my strengths? Is it my follow-up in my responsiveness? Is it my expertise in a niche market or a local market that I specialize in? Is it my uh, my integrity? Is it my uh, use of technology? What are my strengths? As an individual agent, these are things we need to be thinking about. Like, we really have to be clear on what our value proposition is. One of the biggest challenges I see agents having is not being clear on that. And when they're not clear on that, they can't answer the spoken or unspoken questions. And those spoken or unspoken questions are the ones that the consumers always are thinking. And what I mean always thinking is they always are thinking, and sometimes they'll voice it, but the questions in this consumer's minds are always going to be, why should I do business with you? Or what do you do that's different? Right? So we always have to be able to answer those questions. Right? It's our unique value proposition. What do I do? Why should you work with me? And what do I do that's different? And how can I give you an advantage? And unless we know that, unless we know our strengths and or our weaknesses, what are our weaknesses? Our weaknesses that we, um, aren't tech savvy. There's our weaknesses that we aren't detail oriented. Our weaknesses that we, um, don't like picking up the phone, or aren't great at follow up, or um, I don't ask for the business. I don't close. What am I? Really understanding yourself to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are, then it's really hard to do anything more than what you've been doing. And I'm going to assert that every one of you that joined this is here because you want to be better. You want to do more. And it may be, more business. It may be doing the same amount of business, but without, with half the effort or in half the amount of time. It may be a combination of those things. And that leads into the next question. What do I really want in life and business? Right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I wake up every morning? Why do I, why do I put on my real estate uniform, whatever your real estate uniform might be, and go to work each day? What is it that I want? Why am I doing this? Is it is it to provide for a better life for my family? Is it to provide for a college education for my children? Is it to build wealth? Is it to pay off debt? Is it to have the dream home or the dream vacation home on top of the dream home? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Um, Here's what I know: if we don't aren't clear on why we do what we do, the chances of us doing the things we need to do, especially on the days we don't feel like it, becomes really hard. But if we're crystal clear on what we want and why we do what we do, then it's much easier to have the stronger mindset to do the things we know we need to do, especially on those days when we don't feel like it. And let's face it, we all have those days. For 26 years as an agent, I did lead generation and lead follow up every day. And I can promise you, there were probably more days that I didn't want to do it or didn't feel like doing it than I did. I kept doing it anyways because what I wanted and what my goals were way more important than how I felt, were way more important than what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do. Right. So we really have to understand what that is. And I would challenge each of you, if you aren't clear, to take the time, whether it's this evening or this weekend or whenever, to sit down and say, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I playing this game called real estate? What do I really want in life? What do I really want out of this business to provide the type of life I want? And then the next question is, what am I willing to do? Okay, what am I willing to do? Am I willing to do what it takes to reach the goals that I've set, to obtain the things that I want to obtain, to do the things that I said are important to me or the reason why I'm doing this? Now, there's a great book that I read a long time ago. It was in the 90s. I think it was called The Ultimate Secret to Getting Whatever You Wanted. I don't even know if the book's in print anymore. Uh, the author's last name was Harnecki. I think it was, I can't remember his first name. Harnecki, Harnicki, I think. But I'll just save you the from reading the book, because the very last chapter of the book gave the ultimate secret to getting whatever you wanted, achieving whatever you want. And it was the willingness to do what it takes. Doesn't mean you have to do whatever it takes, especially if it's not legal, moral, or ethical. But having the willingness to do what it takes, that willingness is what will cause you to run through walls when you need to run through walls to get a deal done, or to follow up with someone, or to close a listing appointment. Right? The willingness to do what it takes. Um, Again, if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, having that willingness and being willing to do whatever it takes is really hard, because we're having to generate it all the time instead of knowing, hey, this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to take care of my parents. I'm doing this to take care of my family. I'm doing this to build wealth. I'm doing this to have my home free and clear. Right? You have goals that are important. And what are you not willing to do? Look at, there's some of us on this call right now are like, Chris, I'm not willing to do those things. I'm not willing to work that hard. I'm not willing to prospect every day or do lead follow up every day or to do the things I want to do. I want to have fun. Hey, guess what? When you're achieving goals, it's fun, but that's a whole nother topic and another talk. Uh, but what am I not willing to do? And being really clear on that. And maybe, look at my first year in the business. At the end of my first year, I sold 27 homes my first year. And I worked 7 days a week and ungodly hours for that first year. I didn't know any better. There was no training. There were no YouTube. There were no, I didn't know of any coaching programs, right? There were no companies that provided anything. I just had to figure it out through blood, sweat, and tears. But at the end of that first year, I knew I wanted to sell more homes and make more money, but I knew that I couldn't work any harder or any longer than I did. And so then I had to say, okay, well, how am I going to do that? Well, for me, it was easy. Okay, I have to hire someone to do the things that I wasn't willing to do anymore. I wasn't willing to spend several hours stuffing envelopes for mailers. I wasn't willing to be my own receptionist. I wasn't willing to be my own administrative assistant and do a bunch of paperwork, right? Because I wanted to be in front of buyers and sellers. So what are we not willing to do? Now, this plays into who we are. As a company, we own Movoto.com. And for those of you that are familiar with Movoto and those of you that aren't, it's a search portal, right? It's the fifth largest portal. We have 70 million unique visitors a year that go there. And we introduce those visitors to top agents. And we do it through a platform that we have called Lever. And Lever is a platform for agents like you who want to do more, but they've maybe reached their limit. Like they don't know how I can do more. Like they have to build a team, but they don't want to build a team. You know, they've tried to hire someone in the past and it didn't work out. It was a nightmare. And they don't want to go that route. And they certainly don't want to join a team because they don't want to give up their identity or they don't want to be, a buyer's agent or showing assistant, right? They want to do their own business. Well, Lever is a platform where we do the things that a team would do for you or do the things that you know need to be done but don't like to do or don't want to do. For example, manage your database, make sure it's set up the right way, make sure everyone's tagged the right way, all the marketing, create all the marketing for you. So every email campaign that's written for you and provided and that your past buyers are getting the right emails and your prospective sellers are getting the right emails and your sphere of influence is being contacted and all those things are happening automatically. We pay for and oversee your transaction management so that you can be more focused on the consumers instead of the paperwork. And then we provide really great training and leads from Movoto.com. Let me go back to this. All right. So let's talk about the pros and cons of being a solo agent, and then we'll tie this back into the Lever platform. One of the downsides is scalability. As I said, after my first year, I couldn't do anymore. I actually had to hire someone. And that hire turned out not to work, but it got me on the path of figuring out how to hire the right person. So scaling your business as a solo agent, you only have so much time and you only have so many days and so many hours, just like all of us. And so scaling beyond wherever you've gotten to sometimes can be really hard as a solo agent. Constant availability. When you're a solo agent, the buck stops with you, right? There's no team members or team owner or anyone else to handle anything. It's you. It's you 24/7. That's one of the downsides. It can be also be an upside, but it is one of the downsides of the business. It can be lonely being a solo agent, especially in this day and age where most of us work remotely. You without having the camaraderie and the interactions of a team or community can be lonely. The financial responsibility, everything revolves around what you hunt and kill every day, right? That's what you generate every day. And there's bills that need to be paid and platforms that you need to be paid for and marketing that you do and everything else. And that's 100% on your shoulders. The lack of specialty. Sometimes as a solo agent, it's hard to specialize because you never know where your next deal is going to come from. You never know where your next prospect's going to come from. You never know where the next referral is going to come from, and it may not make it so that you can focus on a certain niche. And then last but not least is the lack of leverage, right? As I again use my example, the only way I knew I could do more was to create leverage. And I created leverage by hiring people to do things so that I have more time to be in front of buyers and sellers and sell more homes. As a solo agent, if you don't want to go that route or aren't going to go that route, then again, you're wearing 7 or 8 or 10 different hats during the day instead of just the one hat. I use the analogy of the doctor's office a lot. Um, eh, in the old days, the doctor was the one that uh, did everything, right? In fact, they even made house calls, and then they figured out if they had an office and people came to them, they could see more patients and help more people. And then they figured out if they had a nurse, that would create more leverage, and a receptionist, and a lab tech, and an X-ray tech, and an insurance biller, and an office manager, right? And today's doctor's office probably one of the best examples of leverage, where that doctor can see lots of patients and spend almost 100% of their time on helping patients, and they have people around them to do those other things. All right. Well, the pros of being a solo agent. What are the best parts? Number one, agility and nimbleness, right? You get to do what you want. You get to do when you want. You get to decide, where you're going to put your time and energy. And you can change that at any time. Um, Brand continuity, like if it's your brand, and it's always going to be your brand as a solo agent, right? You're never going to defer to a team or anyone else's because it's you. Um, Price point and profitability. Again, you get to choose what your standards are. You get to choose who you're going to do business with. You get to choose where you're going to do business. The level of service you provide is 100% in your control as a solo agent, right? You're not deferring to anyone else. You're not delegating to anyone else. You're not handing off to anyone else. It's you, and so you get to control that level of service. Another advantage of being a solo agent is optionality, right? You can decide, hey, I want to do this now, or I want to try this, or I'm going to focus on this type of lead generation, or I'm going to join this network to get business from this network. And then independence. It's the ultimate independence, right? We're independent contractors. And being a solo agent is the ultimate because there is no one to answer to other than the person in the mirror. So those are some of the upsides of being a solo agent. Now, having worked with agents for 40 some years now, we know what the worst practices for a solo agent are. One of them is, chasing shiny objects or the shiny object syndrome, right? There's a new marketing platform, there's a new technology, there's a new AI tool, there's a new um, lead network, there's a new lead source, there's new stuff constantly. Companies are creating things for us to spend money on as agents every day. And chasing those shiny objects is one of the quickest ways to go broke, and one of the quickest ways to create more distractions than already exist. A lack of accountability. Look, I don't care how focused or driven someone is, and I'm probably one of the most focused and driven people I know. Having accountability helps take it to another level. Any of you that have ever wanted to get in shape and joined a gym, having a trainer creates a level of accountability. I had a trainer for years, and I worked out at 5 a.m. in the morning. There were many days when my alarm clock went off at 4:15 that I didn't feel like going to the gym, but I had to because I know my trainer got up at 4:15 and was waiting for me. That level of accountability kept me going. Without that, there were probably days where I wouldn't have gone, right? I'm human just like everyone else. Um, Unrealistic plans. Look, we all have good intentions, or at least most of us do. And we have plans and things we want to accomplish, but sometimes they aren't realistic because what it actually takes could be things we're not even aware of or we're not prepared for, or it could be things that in order to really achieve that, we'd have to do much more than we ever thought. And those unrealistic plans are one of the things that derail a lot of solo agents. And then stagnation. You know, there's probably some of us on here that our business is stagnant, right? What we did this year, or what we do this year, is going to be similar to what we did last year, and what we did last year was similar to what we did the year before. We're not growing 20, 30, 40% a year. We're not growing up to our potential. We're not growing up to our skill level because we and our business and what we're doing has become stagnant. Those are some of the things that make it really challenging as a solo agent. I want to check it, if any questions you have, any comments, put them in here because I want to make this, like I said, interactive. And we can talk about any of these things that have maybe struck a nerve that you say, hey, Chris, well, let's talk about this. How do I deal with this? Or how do I become more effective in this? Or this is an area that is a challenge for me. All right, best practices as a solo agent. Number one is know your numbers. What do we mean by when we say know your numbers? Right? Do we have a goal? Is it a written specific goal? Is it measurable? Do we know what we need to do on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis to achieve that goal? Do we know what our conversion rate is on a listing appointment? Do we know what percentage of our listings sell? Do we know our list price to sales price ratio so we can compare it to the market and show a prospective seller that we outperform the market? Do we know how many contacts we need to make every day to achieve our goals? Do we know our numbers? The top agents know their numbers. And some of you on here who are top agents absolutely can answer the questions that I just mentioned and know those numbers. The best agents have chosen their lead generation levers, right? They have their 2, 3, or 4 lead gen sources that they have gotten very good at because they focus on those 2 or 3 or 4 instead of 15 of them, and have started to get mastery around those. And they know where their business comes from and what they need to do on a daily basis to generate more of it. Another best practice for solo agents is finding your tribe. Look at who's the agents that you can network with? Who are the agents that you can mastermind with? Who are the agents that are dealing with the same challenges you're dealing with that you can talk through those challenges and hear how they're handling them and hear suggestions and ideas that you can implement? Do you have a tribe? And if not, what do you need to do to find one? Another is creative leverage. How do you create leverage with this without paying for it, right? If you hire someone, right? If you hire an admin, if you hire a listing manager or an escrow manager or transaction manager, you're paying for it. How do you create leverage or how do you have leverage in a creative way where maybe you're not paying for it? Do you have a relationship with your title rep where the title rep maybe can help you do some of the things that need to get done? Do you have a relationship with your mortgage provider where they can help you with some of the things that you get done? Who do you do business with on a regular basis that you can lean on for leverage? Do you have kids? Hey, for years I used kids in some of the neighborhoods to help pass out flyers for me every month, and they liked it and they loved it, and I didn't have to pay them a ton of money because they were kids. So, what ways can you create leverage? Best practice for a solo agent is getting a coach. Yes, it's expensive, but so is anything else that's going to yield you great results. And one of the things about getting a coach is that having a coach will help you achieve the things that you wouldn't achieve on your own. Having a coach will help you see the things that you wouldn't see on your own. Having a coach will help you get past challenges that you may not get past on your own, or that may take you twice as long or 3 times as long to get by. Yeah, that Tina said, hiring a coach has done amazing for her. The first day I learned that you could hire a coach, and I remember this was in 1996, I hired a coach. I still have one today. I've had a coach since 1996 and sometimes multiple coaches. It's the best investment you'll likely ever make. And then last is having a plan. The best practices for solo agents always include that they have a plan. Now, a plan is simply taking your goal and saying, what do I have to do on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis to achieve that goal? See, a goal without a plan is just a hallucination. It's a fantasy. It's a wish. It's a hope for, a want. But a goal with a plan actually is what it takes to achieve that goal, right? This is what I need to do each day to achieve that goal that I've set for the year. So the best practices for solo agents is having a plan. Um, Jennifer asked the question, would it just make sense to be on a team? Hey, sometimes it does, and for some of you, that may be the thing to do. Um, the reason we created Lever is for the agents that want all these things and want everything that team provides, but they don't want to be on a team, right? They don't want to give up their identity. They don't want to, be a spoke on the wheel. They still want to be the wheel. And so that's something that we all of us need to honestly look at and say, okay, is joining a team the best thing for me? Is building a team the best thing for me? If the answer to both of those is no, then there's something like our Lever platform where we do all those things for you, provide the support, provide all the things you would need so you can just go sell more homes. But great question. If you are going to, yeah, and Tina said, if you're going to look at coaches, Glover U is a coaching company I recommend also. And there's a bunch of good ones out there. Um, Tim and Julie Harris have a great coaching company, and they're in EXP. So look at the reason EXP and our company partnered on the Lever platform is because we know that there's a lot of solo agents in EXP and they're faced with these same type of questions. You know, do I want to start a team? Do I want to start hiring people? Do I want to be on a team? And for some of you, those are the right things. Uh, the Eric asked the question, what's the subscription and cost fee? I'm going to show you guys, in fact, um, this is we've talked about Lever a lot because this is the topic of this conversation. Um, it's the at the end I'll give you all the information on that, Eric, and everyone else. Uh, the In fact, you can scan this QR code, and this will give you send you to the landing page. They'll give you the information. For EXP agents, it's a discounted monthly fee of $149. And then there's a percentage of each transaction, and that percentage varies from 15 to 25%, depending on how many transactions. Here's what I can tell you: that the agents that have joined Lever, and many of them are EXP agents, what they love about it is that they're doing more business than they ever thought possible without having to spend 2 or 3 or 4 times as much time and effort, because we're doing the things for them that they would have to be doing or pay someone to do. Um, and it's being done more effectively. All right. We know what email campaigns work. We know how to make sure a database is set up the right way. We know how to make sure that we're providing the timely training, and we do training 3 times a week where you just join a Zoom call with myself or one of our other key people and talking about really specific topics and challenges and scripts and dialogues to help those individual agents that are part of our network be more effective. And when they're more effective, they sell more homes. Kevin asked the question, is the CRM agnostic? It is, right? It does not matter what CRM you're on. Chances are we're already working with that CRM and have agents on it that we'll be able to help with. Is it like an assistant? Yeah, Michael, it's like an assistant. It's like having your own team, your own support team, right? So you have someone who's doing the marketing for you. You have someone who's managing the database. You have someone who's paying for the transaction management and overseeing it to make sure that you don't have to be handling every last detail of it, that someone's also there overlooking it. Ileana said, is it only in the US? It is only in the US. So for those of you that are joining us today from outside the US, Lever is not available in other countries at this moment in time. What else? I think I answered all those questions. Any other questions everyone has? We are coming up on 30 minutes. We said we would keep this to 30 minutes. In fact, it's 1 minute to go. Is there any other questions anyone has? Do this. If you got anything of value from this conversation, let me know by putting it in the comments, since I can't see anyone. Oh, come on. Someone, I will email you. Working on it. Monica, you scan the QR code on the screen, Monica. Um, you can also go to leverbymavoto.com, leverbymavoto.com. Here, I'll just put that lever by leverbymavoto.com. Um, and if anyone on my team is here, if there's a different link that our EXP friends should be using, please put that in the comments. All right. Well, look, I want to be conscious and respectful of everyone's time. We said we would keep this to 30 minutes. We have kept it for 30 minutes. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I hope that you got at least one thing of value or caused you to think about something that maybe you hadn't thought about or caused you to think about something tonight that will help you be more effective and help you sell more homes and be more successful as a solo agent. We are proud to be in business with you and look forward to. If you have questions for me, you want to hit me up afterwards, that's my cell phone number on the screen. That's my email. You can hit me up on social media. Happy to help or answer any questions that you have. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us. Hope you have a productive rest of the day and rest of the week. Thanks, everyone.